Sometimes I can hear the sound trying to make sense in my brain.
Truth Lies in Alzheimer's with Lisa Skinner is a podcast that is airing on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC.
Is what I need to change the world. A few bunch of
How's everybody doing today? Welcome to our show, Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, the podcast. I'm Lisa Skinner, your host. Let's go ahead and start this conversation.
silent fear. Sometimes I can hear the sound trying to make sense in my brain. Smooth melody comes to life after the
Cope, don't struggle. Navigate the challenges of Alzheimer's.
small piece of paper, and love is what I need to change the world. A few bunch of words in this song written for me and for you. All the things we can do for the sake of the nature we love.
Our goal is to get to the truth, dispel the lies and myths, and unveil its secret faces. Understand what it's truly like to live with this disease and focus on what really matters, spending quality time with your loved one.
We can do this. Push all the darkness away.
Welcome to Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, the podcast. Hi, I'm Doug Collins, and I'm a co-author of the book. We are here in Nassau, on location in the Bahamas, and we are visiting today with Rowena Poitier Sutherland. You might recognize that name, Poitier. We lost a fabulous actor this year, January of 2022. We lost Sidney Poitier, two-time Academy Award winner. And Rowena is Sidney's niece, Uncle Sidney. So let's talk a little bit about what she's doing and family business and Alzheimer's and how all of these things are tied into celebrity status and what happens when you're dealing with Alzheimer's as caregivers. So, Rowena, welcome.
Thank you, Doug. I'm so happy to be here, and welcome to the beautiful Bahamas.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful location. We're here at the Town Hotel, and it's one of
Town Hotel. Mm-hmm.
historic Town Hotel, and it's got a parrot in the lobby. The parrot showed a little bit of aggression, wouldn't you say?
It was he got an attitude. Yeah, he's not too friendly.
So, when the diagnosis was made, and I guess it was made a few years ago, of Sidney, that he had developed Alzheimer's, how did that really impact the family?
It's such a sensitive topic, Doug. I mean, Alzheimer's is no respecter of persons. It doesn't matter your status. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished in the world. When it comes, everyone is affected by it, and it shatters your world, and you don't really know how to deal with it, and we're still dealing with it after the fact that he's gone. And so I wish that I had your book at that time to have the tools to share with my family for us to be guided through that process. And it's such a gift. So thank you for sharing that gift with the world. But how has it affected us? It's really hurt us. It's caused us to look deep within. In some respects, it's connected us even more because we have this shared trauma, really. So yeah, it's just a very monumental thing to navigate. There's no cure for this.
No, there is no cure. And, every 3 seconds right now, someone in the world is being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So it really is a tragic disease. So it's one of these things where you have to learn, how to talk to your children about what's going on with Uncle Sidney. You have to, talk with your sisters, your brothers. I mean, it's one of these things where there's almost a stigma attached.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about this off camera a little earlier. Like, you don't talk about it. You don't want to really acknowledge it. And how do you share that information with others? Will they understand? How do you express that? How do you give the person who is suffering with that dignity in that? You know, it's a very tricky thing to navigate.
Yeah. And, it's always interesting, too, because, obviously as the disease, progresses, the memories decline. Mm-hmm. And then, then it's like they don't know you, and you have this almost feeling of isolation. And I believe that's almost what went on with your uncle.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, you lose them twice, as we've said before, because, I mean, here he is, this giant of a man who's accomplished these things that few people on the planet Earth will ever experience or do or contribute. And in a flash, they're gone. They're searching and grappling for little specks of that. And so, in a way, you're getting to know someone new and learning how to love that person and be with that person and still cherish the person that they were, but honoring who they are in that space.
When you take a look at Sidney Poitier and his career, and you realize, he was born premature. So 3 or 4 months premature, to the point where his father actually purchased a small casket, and had planned to bury his son in that casket. But his mother had different ideas, didn't she?
She did. Yeah, she was told that he would walk with kings. He would walk amongst kings, and that he did.
And maybe today he's walking with kings.
That's a beautiful thought. I mean, no one really knows how life is going to unfold. We can speculate, sometimes the doctor says you have 24 hours to live, and then, 10 years later, there you are living your life to the fullest. And so I'm really grateful that he lived, and he lived. He lived a full, exciting, generous, beautiful life. He died completely empty. And so even though, in a way, we lost him before we lost him, he was empty. He was empty.
He was ready to go.
Yeah, he was ready.
And I tell you, Rowena is kind of following in those footsteps, and she's really making her own path. She's just doing so many cool things. She's working with kids. She's working with culture and art. And you have something called Goombay Kids, and I guess it's about to explode. So tell me about it.
Well, I'll tell you about a few things, because Goombay Kids is a part of this sort of universe that we've created here in the Bahamas, my husband and I. 10 years ago, actually, I began this company called BAM, Bahamas Artist Movement, here in the Bahamas, which is a performing arts and cultural center and institute. We provide education in all aspects of the performing arts, and we're the only sort of entity of its kind in the Caribbean. So that's amazing. Really exciting. And so we're cultivating all this talent. And we thought, my partner and I, Stephanie Neon, who is actually the creator of Goombay Kids, I'm the executive producer, it was so serendipitous that we came together, because here we are, we're creating this space and cultivating this talent, but we need a platform for this talent, especially the young ones. We really invest a lot in the children. And so Goombay Kids was born, which is a live action television scripted show that follows 3 kids. And it's really edutainment. You learn about culture, you learn about education, you learn about communication and just social justice and how to be a decent human being from a very early age. And so that's what this show is. And we've given people in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, young island children, a platform to showcase their talent.
Oh, what a fantastic thing. And when you're working with kids, kind of tying this back in, to Alzheimer's, something once again we talked about off camera. Kids, they're amazing. and they recognize that, something's different with my uncle, or something's different with my grandfather, and you have to really find ways to communicate with your kids so where they kind of get an understanding of what's going on with their elders.
Yeah, I mean, there's storytelling is how we pass on legacy. That's how we educate the next generation. And I think that's how, in many ways we failed them. And I think right now this is how we're going to serve them, through empowering them and through their own voices. Children teaching children about these issues. An example of that would be about the environment. We've done shows where we talk about trash and how you recycle and taking care of your planet and being responsible. And I've seen kids in the Bahamas who are like, their parents throw something down, they're like, no, pick that up. Gumbe kids say, you don't do that. And so likewise with something as serious and so difficult to understand, even for adults as Alzheimer's, to be able to take a topic of that magnitude and put it in a way in which children can process that and receive that, I think they'll be ahead of the curve in understanding something that's so complicated.
And I believe, life here in the Bahamas, it's really similar to a lot of the other countries outside the U.S. You tend not to put your parents into nursing homes or memory care facilities. You tend to bring them home, so where your family at home now becomes multi-generational. So this is one of these things where, if your parent has Alzheimer's and you've got kids, you've got to take care of the caregivers, because you never get away from it. It's like the elephant in the room, and you wake up and you've got Alzheimer's in the house. You've got it all day. You go to sleep, Alzheimer's is still there, and you've got to learn to take care of the caregivers, make sure that they have a respite where they can recover from these types of things. And I'm sure that's the way it is in the Bahamas, right?
That's exactly the way it is. I mean, our elderly, we embrace them, and so they're usually with their great grandparents, grandchildren rather, and we're still, I don't think any household has mastered that conversation, but it just becomes a part of everyday living, so I would love the language and love to be able to share the language with people of how you share that with young people so that they understand what's going on in their home, but it's become really a part of our culture.
Now, I think with Goombay Kids, you're also doing a lot of things that have to do with the culture of the islands and the music of the islands and the art and so many things that really make the Bahamas the Bahamas. Sidney Poitier was born here. He grew up out on Cat Key, I believe. Cat Island, okay. And and that legacy just continues. I can remember I had the privilege of meeting Sidney Poitier, and I listened to him tell the story about the first time that he saw a Western movie. First time he did, and he said at the end of the movie, he and his friends were waiting at the back door, and someone asked him, "What are you waiting at the back door of the theater for?" And he says, "Well, I'm waiting for the horses and the cows," and they didn't realize they'd seen it on the screen. And it was on the screen. They weren't in the theater. They weren't going to exit through the back door. I mean, just an amazing, and what a gentle soul. Just one of the most wonderful memories I have was me. I mean, he crossed the lobby. Case of mistaken identity. He thought I was Richard Dreyfuss, and so at the time he crosses and he gets within about maybe 3 or 4 feet of me, and then he sticks out his hand and he says, "Hi, I'm Sidney Poitier." And I said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Poitier." But that's the kind of man he was.
He was. And I'll share an interesting story. So I went to Los Angeles for grad school, and I went to his house. And he was, testing me. He was always testing. He was making sure that you were ready for the challenge. And he said, "Rowena, are you sure you don't want to become a dentist?" And I was like, "No, Uncle Sidney, I don't want to be a dentist. I want to be an actor." And he pushed me. He was like, would you imagine yourself doing anything else? Is this what you want to do? And I said, "This is it." And he said, then you do that, and you never stop. And I will never stop. And I will pass that message on through generations, through BAM, through Goombay kids. That's what he would have wanted. And so he lives on. His memory lives on.
Mm. So here we have been in Nassau in the Bahamas, and we've been spending time with the fabulous Rowena Poitier Sutherland. So nice to have you here on our podcast.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you, and thank you, listeners.
Truth Lies in Alzheimer's, Its Secret Faces by authors Lisa Skinner and Douglas W. Collins is a concise guide for caregivers navigating the heartbreaking challenges of having a loved one diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and other dementia. Everyone has an Alzheimer's story. It's time to start that conversation about Alzheimer's disease and stop treating it like it's only family business. You can find it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and other fine booksellers.
Piece of paper and love is what I need. Sometimes I can hear the sound trying to make sense in my brain. Smooth melody comes to life after the rain. Small piece of paper and love is what I need to change the world. A few bunch of words in this song written for me and for you.